Faves, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I thought I might do a journal with me, but at the same time talk to you about some of my current favorite art supplies. So using some of my favorite supplies currently in my journal, and I thought that'd be a little bit different to just doing a basic journal with me. I still want to do the journaling in the span of a day and showing you how I would normally do some journaling in snippets by having my journal set up in a public area. So it would be my dining room, because my dining room is like the main sort of area of the house that you can walk. You have to walk through the dining room to get to, say, my studio, to get to my bedroom, to get to the lounge room. You have to walk through that public place. So I will do a video this month showing you how I would snippet journal, which is what I basically like to journal, and how I do journal is in snippets. I normally don't sit down and do a big whole spread. I will do it in bits and pieces and build my pages like that. I've talked about this before by journaling in the, like, showing you a whole spread, and that's one video, is not me in journaling in my natural habitat, I guess you could say. It's just what I do for you guys. So I'd like to show you a video on how I journal throughout the day, how I grab snippets from throughout the day and get my journaling done in little bits and pieces. I know that my school holidays makes it super hard to do that because my kids are around constantly, and I try and spend a bit more time with them during the holidays so they don't feel like mummy's always working. And we have been quite sick these holidays with the kids having colds, and then me having a stinking migraine that just put me on my ass basically, and totally just took me out. And I hadn't had one of those because I've got medication for migraines, but I hadn't filled my script. I ran out, didn't have time to fill it, and obviously when we went to the city got super overstimulated, overwhelmed, did not drink enough water, which is one of the things that since having my surgery, is a real issue. If I don't drink enough water throughout the day, I will get a migraine. There's just no way about it. And I had nothing all day. I had a half of a chicken and salad wrap for lunch, and I had half a coffee, and that was all I ate from 7 o'clock in the morning until 5:30 in the afternoon, and I paid for it dearly. So I thought I would do a little bit of playing in my journal and using some of the supplies that I'm currently loving, and just give you a little bit of show and tell basically. There will be a supply documentation this month as well. I did have a little bit of a nudge from an inkie to sort of continue that, and the reason why I hadn't was because a lot of my supplies were the same, and I felt like it would be an almost silly idea to do the same video every month, even though that was the whole point of it. At the same time, I thought if you're paying money to watch videos from me, you don't want to see a repeat video once a month. So I kind of made the call to just not make it until I felt there was enough variety in what I was using. But it does show that I do like certain supplies, and I do favor them continuously. And so the last one that I did was in March, I think, and I think there's a little bit of variety there. A lot of the stuff is the same, because I don't go out and buy the latest and greatest of everything in the art supply world. I tend to stick to things that I love. I use watercolors, I use colored pencils, I use pens, I use markers, and I use washi tapes and things, but I don't normally go and try out normal different things. So it does mean that a lot of my videos are the same, because I have what I like to use. It's what I'm comfortable with, so that makes it a bit hard. I did try and film the start of the supply documentation video yesterday when I was actually in my worst state of my sort of migraine fog, and you'll probably see the pathetic excuse for that intro in the studio vlog, where I show you all the bits and pieces that go along with trying to keep up a creative business on your own when you're not feeling the best, which is really, really hard. Everyone else gets sick days, but when you work for yourself, you feel almost guilty for taking a sick day, because you think if you stop, then everyone's going to notice and then be like, oh, she doesn't work very hard. But I couldn't physically give you the best of me yesterday. I tried and I tried and I stumbled and I stumbled and I sounded drunk and I sounded sort of off with the pixies because I was. And it's interesting to have a capsule of that, to physically see it on camera. You don't think it's that bad until you rewatch it back and you go, oh my goodness, I could not have sent that video out yesterday. So I have to refilm an intro where I don't sound drunk and disorientated. But yeah, we're all human, and I am really grateful that I've got such an understanding group that knows that I work myself to the bone, and then every now and again I need a sick day, and yesterday was definitely one of those days. I was not well. Migraines are the worst, man. They're just the worst, and I've never had them as a kid. I had lots of headaches, but I never had migraines. But as I've gotten into my teens and into my adult years, I get them pretty bad. So I need to go fill my script so I have that medication, which stops me getting to the stage where I get the fog the next day. So I haven't had the fog in a really long time, and man, did I know I don't miss it. I don't miss it at all. So that's enough babbling for me. That's a nice 6-minute intro of babble. I thought I would I've got bits and pieces. I've printed some photos. I've got bits of collage sheets and stuff. But I thought I'd go and collect some of my current favorite items that I am playing around with and use them on my spread and sort of have a little chat. Yeah, I will speed up portions of the video and then I will stop and chat to you about supply if I think it's something that I am really loving. A lot of the stuff is rekindled from Use It or Lose It, so you'll probably see some fan favorites like my Posca paint markers and probably some of the paper artsy paints, which you guys are also really loving. So yeah, they'll be there. Just a little supply chat in between a journal with me, so it's not just a journal with me, if you get my drift. I love talking about supplies, and I love watching people talk about supplies, so I try every now and then make a video that I love to watch, because then I feel like we're all very similar people in what we like to watch. So I'm going to get my desk a little bit cleaner because it's a bit chaotic after I just sort of dropped everything yesterday, and there's like half my stationery selection box unboxed over there. It's just a big fat mess, but it's time to have a little play in my journal. I just attached one of my tags that I get from my Sojourner stuff. I don't know what to do with them half the time, so I use them as tags, and put in an original from one of your old collage sheets because she was floating around. I didn't want her to get wrecked, so I just shoved her in my journal. And just some of these little photos are from our trip to Japan, but I just, again, floating around on my desk, and I like mini things in my B6. I think you can get away with a lot of mini odds and ends when you have a small journal, and it doesn't seem so mini because the journal's so small. So yeah. Oh, and quickly, there was a question about where I got these. I got these in Japan, but I know a lot of stores carry them. So they're by the brand Bande. I want to say Bando, but at the same time I want to say Bande. So if I can find them online, I'll link them. But I did get a question about where I got these giant black and white numbers, and they do a heap of like single washi tapes that are also single houses and things. They've got the cat heads with the legs and the dresses and things. They do a whole heap of them. So if I can find them, I know a couple of the stores sell them online, but I haven't seen the numbers. So I saw these in Japan and I snagged them up because I thought they were awesome. But I remember getting a question about that in my other video, so I thought I'd just tell you guys that now. So desk clean time, let's go. Okay, before I actually start on my journal page, one of the items that I have been gravitating towards is my Traveler's Company fountain pen, and I absolutely adore this. I bought it in Japan and I finally found cartridges for it that are waterproof, so it meant that I could refill it and have just cartridges. I also am going to grab a what do you call it, a syringe to be able to refill the cartridges as well. So once those have run out, I'm going to be testing. I've never actually syringe filled a cartridge before, but Sian and Sononi tell me it is quite easy, so I think I'll probably go that route as well, because I'm trying to be as zero waste as possible. So refilling cartridges is probably the best way to go, especially since I've got quite a lot of waterproof ink here in different colors. I absolutely adore this pen. It is so petite and writes really nicely. I got it in a fine nib. I also have the pencil from the company, and I also have the ballpoint pen on its way to me. I wanted the trifecta. I think they're really sturdy, they're really beautiful, and they age really nicely, and they fit really beautifully in the pen loop, obviously. So I got the pencil as a gift quite a few years ago now, and I loved it. And then I bought the fountain pen on my last trip to Japan, and then I've been using this every single time I journal or write in my journals lately, especially since my vanishing point needs a new nib. So this was what I sort of gravitated towards after that, because I haven't obviously replaced the nib for my vanishing point yet. And I do have a Decimo in the champagne pink, but I am having issues with that nib as well, even though it's not bent or anything. It skips a lot. I've cleaned it, done a whole heap of stuff, and I'm just having issues with it. So I don't enjoy writing with it at the moment. So I want a pen I can enjoy writing with. Otherwise I don't want to write. So this baby has become my go-to. I'm actually considering getting my name or Bambi engraved in it. Not quite sure yet if I'm going to do it or not, but it's on the maybe list. It's really beautiful, and I love the whole range of brass looking pens from the Travelers company. So yeah, I did order the ballpoint pen to have in my bag when I travel, and that sort of thing, have it in my little pen case. So there is that. That is number one, especially for my favorite supplies that I'm currently loving. It's nice and weighty. I thought the weight was going to be annoying, but once I tried Sononi's at a art night, I fell really hard for it. I thought I'll wait and I'll buy it in Japan as my souvenir pen, because I like to pick up pens as souvenirs, and this was the pen that I picked up while I was in Japan, and it's been my go-to daily writer. And now that I have waterproof ink in it as well, it's a beautiful thing. I was using the cartridge that came with it, was obviously not waterproof, so I was just making sure that I did my watercolors first and then right over the top. Now I don't have to worry about it either way. So number one on my go-to favorite supplies at the moment is my Travelers company fountain pen in the fine nib with waterproof ink. So yeah, that's number one, and I guess it's time to start working on my journal spread. I've got a whole heap of odds and ends in here that I want to play with. I've got collage sheet bits, I've got just bits of silly drawings that I've been sort of playing around with. I'm trying to get my brain to work, so I thought instead of wasting them or just having them floating around, I cut them out and I'll just add them because they're little and bitty, and the small things seem to look really adorable on the B6. Everything small looks adorable in the B6. Even like doodling with just a pen, I cut it out, I'll add it to my journal. These sorts of things that we do mindlessly, they're parts of our day, they're little bits and pieces, and I'd rather use it in my journal than just let it float aimlessly without sort of any rhyme or reason. So that's kind of there. And because I've been daydreaming about Disney lately, I thought I'd pop in one of the pictures that I took at Tokyo Disneyland somewhere in here. But yeah, it's kind of where I'm headed. But yeah, let's go into speed mode, and then I'll pop back in when I pick up something else that I really love using.
This is a good day, yes, any.
So because I'm coming in and out within this video and chatting to you about supplies and things like that, I'm not going to be doing a whole heap of voiceover. Sometimes I like for you guys to just sit back and relax and watch me create and listen to the music and all those sorts of things, and anything that I'm doing is not really mind breaking or groundbreaking or mind blowing. It's just me creating in my journal, and I happen to know that you guys enjoy those ones a lot because it gives you ideas on how to practice those sorts of techniques and those sorts of like layouts in your own journal. And I agree, I watch journal with me's all the time, and I may watch a whole video and only find a snippet that I would like to take into my own journal practice, or I don't find any. Sometimes I just really enjoy watching someone who loves journaling. I always say this, passion, seeing someone talk with passion, create with passion is such a beautiful thing to watch and to immerse yourself in, that I love it. I love watching and listening to people who are passionate about what they do. And I'm just grabbing all the sorts of odds and ends that are floating around my table. Some of the rub-ons from the Jane Davenport line, the first release, I think. I've got a few odds and ends that haven't sort of made it into any of the blog posts or anything. They're just sort of floating around my desk, and I decided that in the spirit of use it or lose it, to sort of start using these things in my journal. Adding little odds and ends, the little drawn characters that I've had on scrap pieces of paper, cutting them out and gluing them down, because I find that the B6 really houses small imagery beautifully. Even though they're very small, they're still easy to see, and they just make that cozy feel so much better. I'm just loving the B6. In the end, I decided to put that big rub-on right on top of my monster. It looks really cute. It looks like he's hiding behind a cloud. I don't know, it just was really perfect, and I tried moving it in several different areas and I could not find a place that I liked as much as this, so I decided just to pop it down. I love the rub-ons, they're very opaque, and it totally covered up my actual monster, so it does look like he's hiding behind a cloud.
Tomorrow, there's no time to borrow today. Well, something's gotta give. Today is a good day. Today and not tomorrow. There's no time to borrow today.
Okay, so it is, I think, the next day or a couple of days after. I can't quite remember. I'm losing track of days. This week has been a bit busy, but I have actually, as of today, I think the blog post is already out, so this is not super secret or anything like that. I was doing a blog hop with spellbinders and just showcasing some of the rubber stamps, and I used the narwhal to create a tip-in, like a shaped tip-in, which I'm currently journaling on, and then there's just probably stick some photographs on the back and do a little bit more journaling. So that was one of my ideas, and one of the other ones was to take the hair from one of Jane's faces. So I have the gold, if you can see her actual hair, is the star, like a shooting star across the page, and I made them so that they were a quick and easy way to collect weekly highlights so that you could, I called them starlights, like the star thing that happened that day, and it'd be good for kids and stuff like that, just to have, you know, what was the best thing about your day, and you could write down a week's worth of your kids' favorite things. Like, you didn't have to do it every week, but that was just an idea that had popped into my mind because on the day that I was making the blog post, it was actually my wedding anniversary. We didn't actually get to do anything because I worked all day getting everything ready for the blog post, photographing it, editing it, all that sort of stuff. And hubby actually had the day off, not because of our anniversary, but because he's still sick. And I sent him to the doctor because I'm over it. I'm over it. He apparently had gotten 2 things at once so that he didn't fully recover, and they think he's actually got the flu now, and there's nothing they can do, just to rest and liquids and all that sort of stuff. So it's tiring, and I feel bad for him because he sounds terrible, he looks terrible, poor love's got no energy. So, and he wanted to remind you all that man flu is a real condition. So I've been taking care of him, and the kids are just getting over their colds. It's just, I have sidestepped it so far. I'm okay. Fingers crossed, touch wood, I haven't copped it. I just had that really bad migraine that really put me off my feet for a couple of days. Like, it was just disgusting. So I'm okay, but I'm just hella busy. So I added that to this page, which you obviously didn't see because I did this for a blog post and I did it off camera. So this is currently where we are with the journal page that I was just working on for you guys. And then I added that here, put some pink lined paper on the back. I did a couple more because I like the idea of them. Tried the gold ink and some more muted colors, but I think I'm definitely the rainbow bright kind of shooting star. Tried it with a gold star, wasn't a fan. So I like the bold colors with the black accent. So I was just trialing different versions. I may end up using them because I don't want to waste them. But yeah, so there's those. And the last one, I actually did it a few pages back because I wasn't sure how I wanted to go about it. So I created a ladybug girl from inspiration from this girl from my passport. And I said in my blog post that she looks like the more well-traveled sister, or even one of those before and after like transformation TV shows. It made me laugh. It still makes me laugh just talking about it, how I was thinking about it in my head. So I created the ladybug girl with these stamps. So they're from different stamp sets, and as soon as I saw these I thought of antennas, and then the idea just grew from there. So that was my other idea. So it was kind of like 3 creative ways to use Jane stamps. I didn't make a video for it because I didn't have time, and it was so overcast yesterday. I had to pull out all my big lights to actually do the blog photos. I'm so grateful that I bought the big lighting system. It was a cheapie off eBay, and it had worked fantastically. I was taking these blog photos at like midnight because I was trying to get everything done, trying to get the samples done, trying to make sure it all looked good, and just making sure that I wasn't not giving a good blog post because I wasn't quite prepared for it. And I sort of checked the date and was like, oh my goodness, this is due by 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I had to sort of jump into action and make that happen. And I'm going to keep working on this, and I was going to talk about the distress stains as my next sort of like thing to use in my journals. They're an oldie but a goodie. They're actually one of my very first things that I've talked about on my channel. In my journaling days, these were the things that I went to add color to my journals. I didn't have, I had watercolors, but they were very chalky and my pens didn't like writing over them. This is when I was using the big sort of Micador palette. I'm not quite sure what brand your one is, but that big rainbow palette that everyone got. That was my ride or die palette for a really long time. I couldn't afford proper watercolors and wasn't sure if I wanted to invest money into it. One income family, living in Sydney, yada yada. So I was using these, and I only had a few. I think I had about 6 or 7 colors that I was playing with, and I know a lot of people have gone off them because some of their colors have gone like funky. My worn lipstick is the only one that went funky on me, and I do normally keep them in a dark place. This one does actually smell, but the odor disappears after it's dried. So that's the only thing that I've noticed in the 5 or 6 years that I've owned it, that it has a bit of a funky smell, which goes away with time. So I don't mind. I still have a heap of product left in here, and I will use it until it's empty. I'll just heat set it really quickly so it doesn't stink. But they are, I found that they're just a really great way to add a heap of color to my journal. It's watercolor, but this is distress stain as well, and it's a cheap alternative. You can also like pat it down onto your palette and use it as watercolor if you wanted to. You can, if you don't want giant daubs, I sometimes dab it off onto a piece of acetate or a palette, pick up my watercolor brush and add it that way. So that's a fun way you can use them, and they're quite cheap. You guys get them really cheap over in the US. And I have, you know, a couple, I have more than a couple. I have quite a few colors now, but back then I was literally the blue, the pink, the yellow, the red, and I think maybe the brown were the colors that I had, and I was using them to death. Like Broken China and Picked Raspberry were like the shades that I used to death, and still do. Like that's Picked Raspberry. That's not Broken China, this is Peacock Feathers. But what I'm saying is these are a great little alternative to getting quick color on your page if you don't want to get your watercolors out and all that sort of thing. I sort of grab this, swoosh some color on it. I don't normally cover the whole page. I just sort of add like bits of color that complement the artwork, and that's sort of, you know, one thing that I like to do. The other thing I did this morning was I printed off a whole heap of mini prints. They are one of my favorite things to add to my little B6 journals, and these are the ones that actually reminded me of it, because I did these with some of my Disney photos, and they're just really cute ways to capture moments that you don't want to have huge dedicated pages to in your journal, but they're little things that you want to include. So I thought a great way to do that would be to make mini prints of them, and then because they're so little, you can still see what they are. They're not hard to see, but as you can see, 4 mini prints fit to 1 sprocket print. And I just use the Pick Stitch app and make it 4x6. I bought 4x6 photo paper, but I could chop down A4 photo paper. Actually, I didn't buy it. I was given it by a family friend. She's like, I can't use this here. And I've had it in my cupboard for years and years and years. Finally, I shoved it into my top level of my printer, and that's where the 4x6 prints. I print them from my phone. I air print it. It's pretty painless. If you want a tutorial on how I do it, I'll show you, but everyone's got different printers. So I just added a whole heap of like little prints that are not insignificant moments, but they're not moments that I would do big dedicated photos to, but there's still moments that I want to treasure. Like Spencer, my nephew, turning 4. He is, no, not turning 4, turning 5, sorry. And he looked so happy in this photo when they were singing happy birthday to him. My sister sent me like a procession of photographs, and they just made my heart want to explode. And so I've got my favorite shot there, and this is my little niece Violet, or we like to call her Wally because Spencer couldn't say her name, and so her nickname is Wally. And she comes to that as well as Violet, but she was using dressed up glasses, and I love them. Pictures of the kids wearing giant Kmart heads, all that sort of stuff. These are the little moments that I want to have in my journal, but I don't want to have when space is important, such as this. If I'm working in a B6, I need to make sure that the things in my journal are what I want to be there, and I want to get as much packed into these pages as possible. And like I said, it feels more, what was the word I used? It feels more homey. The B6 feels very, I don't know, little things still look big in this, and I love that feeling. I love how packed full with images and color these things feel. Like there's still art, there's still photographs, there's still color, there's still journaling, but it all is downsized and just compact, and I really like that about the B6. So I did print a whole heap of these. I'm just going to cut them up now with my guillotine, and then we can start working on something else in this page. I think I need to mention a few other products in this journal because I didn't want to do a whole, like all my top favorites, but some of the things that I have been reaching for continuously in recent weeks, and sort of talk to you guys about them. Obviously, These guys are like my new BFF. These are the Fine Tech metallic paints, and I don't know what it is about them, but they haven't left my desk. They're always here under my tripod, and I love splattering them. I loved using it in my Japan journal for coloring in my brass pen. I used it on the stars with me and Wally. I love these. I love these. And I don't think I'm going to use it in this journal spread, but I definitely wanted to give them an honorable mention because since I've purchased them and since I've used them, I want to use them on everything. Like everything. But like this, I need to calm myself down with those. But yeah, I'm going to cut these up, start adding some bits and pieces and do a little bit more journaling. I'm actually going to insert the footage of me creating this image. I was going to put it in your studio vlog, but because it's part of this spread that I'm doing for you, I thought I'd slot that image in, that footage in for you now. Using my pink color Eno pencil, always my go-to. I just sketch out a really messy sketch. My brain was not working very well. This is not the best sketch in the world. It is not high quality. It is just me trying to sort of make myself create something when I'm not feeling it. And you can definitely tell that I'm not feeling it because of the way it turns out, but it definitely captures how I was feeling on the day. And I am glad that I decided to finally listen to my body and listen to Maria and my friends to just take the day off. I don't like taking the day off. I feel almost like a failure, but I definitely needed to take the day off. I was so sick, and this was the only creating I did on that day, and it's pretty pathetic, but I wanted to show you anyway because it is part of the journal spread that I was working on. Because this paper is still quite unknown to me, I didn't know what works on it and what doesn't. I actually haven't done a pen test on this journal, so I just tested one of my markers and it ate right through it, so I didn't bother. Just grabbing out my travel palette as usual. I was just sort of on autopilot at this stage and adding in the pink hair for my hair, and then just adding some basic shading, really basic. It's not even shading, let's be honest. It's just me trying to get some color down onto a really basic sketch.
Honestly, I'm running a bit wide. Be brave. We don't need far too much. Just stay brave. Beside me, happy days. Running on the open fields. Yeah. And I believe you when you say that this is never gonna change. Say, would you like to spend your days with me? Or be brave. We don't need far too much. Just stay brave. Here beside me, happy days. Running on the open fields. We'll stay brave. Yeah. I try to figure out who I am. Not sure what I'm doing here. And the days don't work out the way I thought they would. And before you there was no one who understood. Never found somewhere I fit in. Until I met you, I was feeling lost. but you're the one who can make it go away. All you have to do is look at me. Sometimes I can't breathe, but it feels like you're the one who saves me. When I try, but don't succeed, yeah, it feels like you're the one who saves me, the one who saves me.
I'm trying my best to hold on. It's not easy, but I'm feeling stronger with you. And the days don't work out the way I thought they would. And before you, there was no one who understood.
Sometimes I can't see, but it feels like you're the one who saves me. When I try, but don't succeed, yeah, it feels like you're the one who saves me, the one who saves me. No, I can't get enough of what you do.
So let's talk paint markers. Although it looks like my camera is not focusing on what I want it to. Okay, let's see. If I take this away, does it focus on my journal? Anyway, so let's talk about paint markers. Paint markers are something that I love and have quite an array of. I have lots of different brands. I did get quite a lot of the Liquitex markers, and because they finally brought them into like a stock standard Officeworks, so it was easier to get my hands on them, and they were cheaper than buying them at like Eckersley's and places like that. The only problem, even though they have a fantastic range of colors, the only problem with the Liquitex markers is that they are not matte. And that means that if you wanted to color over the top of them or add or write or anything like that, it would be really, really hard because they have a plasticky like surface, and your most pens, your fountain pens, don't even go near them, wouldn't write over the top of them. So I have been not using these ones very often unless I want to use them as a topper, and by that I mean the last thing that I put onto a page. So the Liquitex markers have a great shade range. They're fantastic, but they are not matte, which makes them really, really hard to add on top of. So they aren't my favorite at the moment. What I do love are the matte ones, and I have Sharpie ones, and I have my favorite of them all, which is the Posca ones. You see me use these guys quite a lot in my backgrounds and things because they are fantastic. They are slowly getting more and more colors out. I seem to collect a single one every time I hit up the Officeworks. They have really different tips, so they have smaller ones as well. They do have fine tip ones, which I don't normally see myself getting, but I have quite a large range of the Posca paint markers, and some of them have glitters. Like this one is a glitter one, and I'm pretty sure I've got another glitter one sort of moseying about, but they are matte, which means that once I put them down, so I wanted to use some of them in my journal page. I am very, very partial to this aqua. Does it have a color? It just says aqua green. It is really, really pretty. I really enjoy this color. I use it quite a lot in my journals and things, and I love just adding it to my journals in like scribbly, in scribbly ways, and then adding different colors next to it. So they are matte, which means that I can come in later on and I can add not photographs, I can add pen over the top of them. I can add colored pencil, I can shade over them. If they're wet, they will mix together. So you can see there that my pink and that aqua have now made a purple. But when they dry, I can then go ahead and use pencils and pens over the top of them because they've dried matte, and they're very, very smooth. I don't find them hard to use at all. I'm still very careful with fountain pens over them because I obviously don't want to ruin my fountain pen nibs, but paint pens, especially the Poscas, are really, really lovely to use. One of the other paint markers that I really quite love are the paint over markers. Now, they're very underrated. I have had a bit of trouble with the white, but all the other colors, like her pastel shade colors, are actually really, really lovely. And I have used her paint over markers quite a bit in my time with them. They're just the nice sort of unicorn shades, and they are also very, very matte, which means that you can write over them as well. So the paint over markers are fab. I love them. I use them all the time. The pink one's roaming around here somewhere. I always have the pink one sort of separated because I use that one a lot. But her colors are really lovely and light and pastel if you are in that way inclined. So I do love those, but I also really love the Posca markers, and they're probably easier to get your hands on. I know Officeworks sell Poscas. I always go in there and grab a new one. I do need the red in the Posca marker. The Sharpie poster paints are also really fun, but they're really hard to get in Australia. I had the ones that I do own. There's another Jane one. The ones that I do own were shipped over to me from a friend of mine years and years ago, and they're still going quite strong. Especially the white Sharpie is like amazing, but super, super hard to get. So these are great if you can get your hands on them, but I prefer at the moment the Posca paint markers and the paint over pens by Jane, and they just add a nice bright opaque layer to something. If I want to block out something, if I just want to add some design elements that I want to be opaque over all my wishy-washy watercolor stuff, I will always reach for my paint markers, and I've used them quite a lot in the backgrounds that I make for your Monday mantras and things. They are becoming a go-to reach for item, and when I pack my pencil case for like a day trip or when I'm packing it to go away, I will always chuck in usually this one, this one, this one, and this one. They're the colors that I normally walk out the door with. I've occasionally swapped out that one for that one. I try not to take a billion, but if I could, I'd take them all. And usually I do try and walk out the door with all of them. But Posca paint markers are a nice way to play in your journal. They don't bleed through your paper. I've used them in all my journals, and I've really, really enjoyed using them. And I will be able to go in with my pen, which you'll see a little bit later on, and journal right over the top with no issues. And let me just hit it with a heat gun quickly and then show you how I would use my next favorite, which is colored pencils. Use the glare. I've got my big overhead lamp on because it's really overcast, but you can see how very matte they are. They are so lovely, and because they're so matte, I have my colored pencils, or some of them. What color will show up best? Let's just use the same sort of color palette that we were using before. These are a lot of the colors that I purchased while I was in Japan. Although if you were to look in my travel bag, I would actually probably have my Jane Davenport her magic wands, her colored pencils. They are my travel companions and the ones that I find are the hardest to travel with. But you can see that they just layer so easily over the top. Now I may have trouble writing over it now because the pencils are waxy, but if you are using them in an artwork, they work fantastically. I really love the texture and the way that the pencils look when they lay down on on the paint marker. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit tongue-tied because I love this sort of stuff. Now this is on the Strathmore mixed media paper, so there is a little bit of tooth to it, which I really love. I love that texture of colored pencils, the way that it gives. Let me get this out of the way just in case the camera's focusing on that and not where it should be. But I really love how they look, and a lot of the times in journals and things like that, I will have pockets of color that look just like this because I love how it looks. It's a design feature. It's therapeutic to me. If I'm feeling a little bit anxious, I'll get out a few of my colored pencils and I will just color little rainbow deposits on my page, and they're like a way for me to sort of shut out the world and stop focusing on other things. I think when we were traveling, I did the same thing in here, in around here. In here, I added little pockets of rainbow stuff because it is therapeutic to me. So if you see little deposits of like weird unicorn patches in my journal, it is just me getting my pencils out and just shutting out the world if I'm feeling anxious, which was another reason why I wanted my journal to be more travel friendly, because I would normally do that in my journal and my A5 was getting so big that I didn't have it on me. So if I was feeling super anxious, one of my coping mechanisms was to get out my colored pencils and to just sit there and just do something methodical with my hands. And so I'm really glad to be able to put this back into my bag with a couple of colored pencils and a pen and just have that as something that will help. It is just a way for me to just shut everything out and then just go down into like get focused, get grounded mode before you lose your shit, basically. So yeah, colored pencils and Posca pens are fabulous. Now my favorite colored pencils of all time are probably oh, actually I shouldn't say that because I've been a Prismacolor girl tried and true for years and years and years, and then I got my hands on the damn Holbein pencils, which I am really loving. And when I go back to Japan one day, I want to purchase more of them in that Atoya with the single colored things, because they are amazing. They're really hard to find in Australia. So if I was said you can only have one more colored pencil for the rest of your life, I would go and say okay, then I'll buy the Holbein ones. I love my Prismacolors. They're a workhorse, but there's just something about the Holbein pencils that are just delicious, and they are stupidly expensive, which is why I hate saying they're my favorite, because they are probably the creme de la creme. And I don't have a huge range of them. I've got what I bought in Japan, and I bought them singly. I didn't buy a pack. I have the pastel pack that we all bought off eBay. But if I was to give you a cheaper alternative but still a fantastic quality, I would go and say go and get Jane's Magic Wands, because they're fantastic and I use them a heck of a lot. They are my travel ones, the ones I have in my travel pouch at all times. The Magic Wands have a great shade range for brightly colored things. There's skin tones in there as well, but I really love her bright colors in this sort of color palette. They're like the perfect shades. They all mix together. Are they in here, or have I put them in a different pouch? They must be in a different pouch because there's not a single colored pencil in here. So they're somewhere. I'm pretty sure I took them to my mum's place when I went to Delungra, and I haven't unpacked them yet. But Magic Wands, if you're looking for a foray into colored pencils, start there, move your way up. They're fantastic. So yeah, I think there's maybe a few more bits and pieces that I would like to do to this journal page. I think add a couple more pictures. I'm not sure if I want to add more to this. I kind of like the overlay of the monster, and I love the little flashback to when we were at Disney. I've been just so obsessed with going back to Japan, and I hope that we can take the kids sometime next year. We have to just check and see if we can make it happen or not. Hubby does that. I just daydream. Hubby makes it real. So yeah, that is where we're at. I think I'll do a little bit more journaling and then I'm gonna wrap it up. I know that not much has happened, but I like to chat a lot when it comes to actually making my journal pages, and I thought this was a nice way to sort of talk through some of the supplies that I've been loving and using. Obviously my watercolor palette is one of those things. I love my watercolors. I haven't been using them as much lately, and I don't know why. And I think that's because I'm still getting very much used to the different types of paper again. But I am coming up to some Tomoe River pages here. So I'll probably add some watercolor to these pages and keep going, but I'm really enjoying how cozy and comfy and little and compact this journal is starting to feel. I need to do something here. Maybe I'll do some paint marker stripes in the background to sort of match her. Let's do that. Just drawing out some basic scribbly lines and then using my paint markers to add that colour, although, spoiler alert, the matte photo paper and the paint markers, they're not friends. So it was a really bad example. Really bad example. High five Courtney in the face.
Hey, I heard you want to leave this place where we grew up. This old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide when we were kids, so we could see and hear the water run. The river's gonna cry when you're gone. Where will you go? Won't you miss the ones you know?
Because this is matte photo paper, this is the back side of the photo paper, the pens are not performing like they should be. They're a bit sort of streaky and they are definitely not like that on normal paper. Like Jane's ones wasn't coping, this Sharpie's not coping. It seems like the Posca is the only one that coped pretty well, and I'm like pressing down on the Sharpie to get extra ink to try and get rid of that sort of that look. So I may only do this section of the photograph with that stripe and just do something else on the other side, because I don't want to sit here and play markers on paper that it's actually not really ready for. I think there's like a coating on the back of the matte photo paper, and that's to be expected because photo paper needs to have some sort of coating to keep all the ink in and all that sort of stuff. And if this was glossy photo paper, it would have a completely different back. But it's not coping, and that is not because of the pen, that's just because of the surface I'm trying to force it on is not really meant for it. So what I might do is I might try and get my Posca yellow and colour over that green, because that green looks like it's just not going to cope. Because of that plasticky, well, it's not even plastic, but there must be a coating on it that's creating that streaky effect. And obviously whatever's in the Posca, it don't care, it's just gonna steamroll it. But yeah, I think I'll just leave it at those three stripes on the side, unless I put like another I don't have any other pastel-y sort of shades that I would want to add to this. I will have to get my, the problem is that this one is so much brighter. The Sharpie is so much brighter than the actual Posca one. So I might get it nice and inky and just use that extra excess paint to sort of layer it over and cover up all those holes that the that the photo paper is creating. And then I will leave it alone because I don't want to make a mess. But believe me, even though it seems like they are not performing right now, I'm putting it on a paper that it's just not meant for. But paint markers, love, love, love them. I just showed them in a really terrible light. And the last few bits and pieces are really self-explanatory, my love, so I'm not going to sit here and talk your ear off. I'm just going to let you enjoy the last bit of the video, getting your journaling in as you watch me create. I am absolutely loving this B6 size. I think I sound like a broken record. I feel like a broken record, but I'm totally adoring how my pages are working, and I am keeping up with my actual journaling in the journal, which is a huge, huge achievement that I've unlocked. Because I feel like I was creating pages in my A5 and then had pages and pages and pages and pages that needed journaling, and I wasn't getting it done, and it was making me feel like what was the point of keeping a journal if I wasn't adding the words, because that is the be all and end all of keeping a journal. It's the words. Yes, having pretty pages is important, but having that space to purge down those thoughts and feelings, whether they be good, bad, or ugly, is really important. And I felt like I was losing that in my A5 because I was creating pages faster than I was writing them, and not making and taking the time to write on those pages. So I'm really happy with myself for making sure that I sit down before bed, after bed, in the morning, on the weekends, as I'm trying to sort of get myself together. I mean, this morning, because I'd worked until 1 a.m. on this blog post for Spellbinders, I sat in bed for an hour to just write, or just sort of ponder. I didn't write for the whole hour, but I took that time out of my morning because I knew I had to work on this on my Saturday morning. Hubby came in and was like, honey, it's time to get up. I said, I'm just having some time to journal. I just need a few more minutes to get down that journaling because I need it. And I'm finally making sure I'm giving myself that time and making that time and taking that time to get those words down on there. And it's super important to me. So I'm really enjoying the fact that the B6 size makes it so there's just enough for me to get my words down while still just being really cozy, and I'm just really enjoying the whole experience of the B6 almost more than the A5. I love the real estate that the A5 gives, but I hate that I wasn't journaling heaps and heaps towards the end of my insert. I don't know if that was because of the hump, I'll never know, but I say that I was going to give you guys time to enjoy the video and I've just babbled about journaling, but it's important. I needed to tell you. Okay, I think I just want to sit down and add my journaling now, which is something I've been really enjoying doing. Sorry about the glare on the glossy photos. I can't help it. The lighting is just shocking here. I've dried this. I'll probably add some line work or something, although I might have to do it in like ballpoint pen or something because of the fact that it is that photo paper. I'll try and work something out. If I find something that works or find a pen that works, I'll let you know. But this is kind of how my pages are looking. I am really enjoying the whole process of it. I just need to add a little bit of color to my dad's photo, a little bit more journaling down here. I was journaling on here this morning about my wedding anniversary yesterday. And so I've got journal spots here and here to go. And then I'll journal around this little thing here and underneath here. And I think I might actually journal like all the way down to about here because I feel like I drew her too big, and I almost covered her up because I felt like I did paint her too large, but I painted her when I wasn't thinking and I was feeling so sick, and I was trying to make content and just trying to get like I was trying to draw out my feelings and how I felt, but I think I'll probably journal to the top of her sort of face because I feel like that is such a huge waste of space, especially when space is so limited in the B6, and you want to make sure that you're doing the best, you're making the best of what you've got. Which is why I didn't add too much more to this page, because I can journal on here. I've got the little star hang here, and I am creating my tip-ins sort of on the side and trying to add a little bit of art, but not too much, because I feel like it takes away a lot of the space. And I still want my journal to be a journal. I still want to be able to get my thoughts down, but still capturing little moments. So I feel like adding things around the sides and tip-ins on the sides is probably my best bet. It's just, I think this was too big and I'll just write over it. So that is everything today. I hope you've enjoyed listening to some of my favorite supplies, my current favorites. It's not all of them. I was just showcasing you like a handful of what I currently love using in my journals and in my like everyday art practice. I will do a supply documentation this month so you can see all the other sort of things, the things that I gravitate towards, like the main everything, because there was a call for it to be done again, and I think a few things have changed, but a lot of the stuff is still the same. I am a creature of habit when it comes to my art supplies, it seems, and when I find something I like, I kind of stick to it and use it over and over and over again, which is the whole purpose of using your art supplies. But but that will come. I've also got to start working on the big Q&A, answering some of your questions, and also the highlight monsters. I'm in the process of getting samples together for your highlight monsters, which are going to be so much fun to make. You guys are going to have a blast with them, and they will be another thing that I tip into the side, kind of like this, because I don't want them to take up a huge amount of room on my actual page. So that video will be coming to you very, very soon. Thank you so much for joining me and spending some time with me in my journal and being super understanding with my migraine that I had was it last week? No, I had it on Tuesday when I went to the city to see my niece. I don't regret going. I love my niece. I'm very proud of my niece, but I do feel like if I didn't go to the city, I probably wouldn't have gotten such an extreme migraine, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I love her to bits, and I wanted to make sure I was there to support her, because there's not often that I can get to her musical things, having 2 kids, and it's normally on a weeknight or late at night when I can't get to her. So I made the effort, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Auntie Judy's are Auntie Judy's, or Tia as I am called by her, because it's my Colombian side family, so I'm Tia. But yeah, wouldn't change it for the world. Just wish I didn't get hit so hard by it. But thank you for being super understanding. You guys are amazing. I hope you have an amazing day. If there's any questions about my journal or my B6, let me know. Again, this is a Sojourner, of course. And this is in the stag leather with the special brown pocket in the designer. It is a folio, so I've got the natural on the inside, and my journal insert is by Documented Journey on Etsy, which is Brie, who's also an inky here, so you can pop into her Etsy store. I'll have her links down below, as well as the Sojourner website in case you're looking and have been curious. I know a lot of people have been asking me about this lately, so I thought I'd just give you the lowdown on what I'm using. And this is a mixture of Strathmore mixed media paper and Tomaway River paper, and I'm enjoying it so far. And Brie asked me not to hold back, so I am adding all the things to it to give it a really good workout. I think I'm just hitting my stride. It's already started to get a little bit of chunk to it. Obviously adding a big fat leather tag to the top probably wasn't the best decision, but she told me to go for it, and I am definitely making sure that I push it to its limits. And of course, because I'm adding tip-ins, to sort of save on journal space, it'll test it a lot, but she has done an amazing job at doing that Coptic stitch binding. So I'm really enjoying working in the journal. This B6 size is such a cute size, such a cute size. It will be hard to shift to the standard size once I'm finished with this, but I think once I do the standard size, I've done like the main gamut of journal sizes, and then I can decide what I love most, or I'll just keep cycling through the sizes to show you different versions on how I journal in different sizes. It doesn't seem to worry me too much. I thought it would, but I like showing you a plethora of different ways to journal, and this is very cute. I think the B6, if I'm traveling, would be a good size, although I think next time we travel I'll be in a standard, so we shall see. So have a wonderful weekend, my inkies, and I will see you again soon. Bye. So I've just laid down my distress stains in picked raspberry and mustard seed and scattered straw, broken china, and peacock feathers, I think. Peacock feathers, yep. And the yellow, the pink, and the blue were colors that I used way back when, and then I realized that my photo of my mum, my sister, and I look really nice there. And then I went through my little ballpoint dish. This is what I was doing, like going through my pens and stuff to see which ones were still working and which ones weren't. So this is all the ballpoint pens that I had in that stash, and the Artline Smooth is actually the pen that I use day in, day out in my journal, back in volume 1, pretty sure. And then I've also got my 2 stencils, which I also used way back when. I got these from one of those cheap dollar stores, and I love it. I think one of them's cracked. I can't remember which one is cracked, but one of them's got a crack in it. And I haven't been able to find a replacement, so I'm still holding on to them. They're still going strong. So I've got those to play with. I've got some washi tape. I'm also going to delve into my box because I'm trying to still do use it or lose it. And I know I've got these planner stickers with the dates and things on there. Where are they? Like these ones, and I'm going to use those, and maybe some of the alphabet stickers that are haunting me. So I'm just going to have a good old play with some of these because I did use stickers back